The city was asleep, but not silent. Somewhere between the glow of flickering street lamps and the distant hum of traffic, a faint whimper echoed through an alley. It belonged to a dog, once proud, once strong, now just a shadow of what he used to be. His coat, which had once been sleek and well-kept, was dirty and tangled. His once muscular frame had withered, ribs visible beneath his fur. Most haunting of all were his eyes, sharp and alert like a soldier's, yet hollow with abandonment. He had been trained to protect, to serve, to trust humans. Now, those same humans had left him to starve. Night after night, he searched. Trash cans became his only source of meals. Puddles collected in potholes became his water bowls. But the real hunger wasn't just in his stomach, it was in his soul. He had been part of something once. He had a partner, a purpose, and a place where he belonged. Now, each shadow he saw felt like a memory slipping away. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, or the loyalty of animals, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Pawsitive Tales. Your support helps us tell stories that remind the world that love can be found in the most unexpected places. On one of the coldest nights of the year, when snow fell like shards of glass from a black sky, the dog curled under a broken park bench, trying to block the wind with his thin body. He could barely keep his eyes open from exhaustion. But then, something shifted. Through the curtain of falling snow, he noticed a figure. A man was approaching, not quickly, not with authority, but with careful, slow steps, as if he didn't want to scare him away. The man was dressed in layers that didn't match, each one worn thin by years of weather. His shoes had holes patched with duct tape. A small, faded backpack clung to his shoulders, probably carrying everything he owned. He had a rough beard, but his eyes, they weren't cold like the others who passed by. They looked tired but not empty. They held the same loneliness the dog knew too well. The man knelt a few feet away and reached into his pocket. He pulled out half of a sandwich wrapped in greasy paper, the only food he had begged for earlier that evening. He placed it gently on the ground and slid it forward. "You're hungry too, huh?" His voice cracked, though the dog didn't understand the words. What he understood was the gesture. Hunger overpowered fear. The dog crawled forward, sniffed, and took the sandwich with surprising gentleness before stepping back, still wary but grateful. That night, for the first time in a long time, the dog didn't sleep alone. He stayed under that bench with the man lying a few feet away, their breaths making small clouds in the freezing air. Neither of them knew it yet, but they had just saved each other. The man's name was Samuel. Years ago, he had a job, a small apartment, and dreams that felt reachable. But life unraveled fast, first the company layoffs, then overdue bills, then eviction. Friends stopped answering his calls. Family helped for a while, but their patience ran out. Shame replaced hope. He found himself on the streets, carrying everything he had left in that single backpack. Each day became about survival, finding enough to eat, enough to stay warm, enough to make it to the next sunrise. Samuel had learned to move through the world unseen. People avoided his eyes, just as he avoided theirs. But after that night, something changed. He no longer walked alone. The dog, now named Ranger, followed him everywhere. At first, Samuel worried. How can I take care of him when I can barely take care of myself, he thought. But every time he considered walking away, Ranger would look up at him with eyes that said, "Please don't leave me. I'll follow you no matter what." And Samuel understood that feeling all too well, being left behind. Ranger brought unexpected changes. Strangers who once ignored Samuel now stopped to ask about the dog. Some handed him small bills or food. Children smiled when they saw Ranger wagging his tail. Even police officers, who sometimes chased Samuel from certain areas, softened when they noticed the loyal K9 sitting quietly beside him. For the first time in years, Samuel felt visible, not as a homeless man to avoid, but as someone people could talk to. Yet life on the streets was still brutal. Rainstorms turned cardboard shelters into soggy traps. Nights dropped below freezing. Samuel often gave Ranger the larger portion of any food they found, pretending he wasn't hungry. His body grew thinner, but his heart felt fuller than it had in years. There were moments, though, when doubt crept in. Maybe Ranger would be better off in a shelter, where he could be fed regularly and possibly adopted by a family. Samuel stood outside an animal shelter once, holding Ranger's leash. He stared at the door for nearly an hour, imagining a warm home for the dog. But when Ranger pressed his head gently against Samuel's leg, refusing to let go, he turned away. "We survived together," Samuel whispered. "I won't abandon you like the world abandoned me." Then came the night that changed everything. The snowstorm had returned, heavier than before. Samuel and Ranger were searching for a dry spot near an empty park when Ranger suddenly stiffened. His ears perked, his body alert, and then he started pulling Samuel in another direction. Confused but trusting him, Samuel followed. In the distance, under a dim streetlight, a small figure was curled up on the ground, a child, no older than 5, crying softly and shaking from the cold. The boy's jacket was thin and soaked through. His lips were blue. Samuel didn't think twice. He knelt, removed his own coat, and wrapped it around the child. "You're gonna be okay, kid," he whispered, though his own body trembled violently from the loss of warmth. He lifted the child into his arms. Ranger stayed ahead, barking sharply, guiding them toward the nearest open gas station, light glowing like a beacon in the snowstorm. The clerk inside gasped when Samuel stumbled in with the child. Police and paramedics were called immediately. The boy was taken to the hospital and survived. News spread quickly: homeless man and his dog save lost child during snowstorm. Suddenly, the world saw Samuel and Ranger differently. Reporters came. Cameras flashed. People who once crossed the street to avoid Samuel now offered him food, clothes, even shelter. A local nonprofit gave him a small apartment. Volunteers raised money to help him get back on his feet. A retired police officer recognized Ranger's training and offered to help retrain him, not as a working dog but as a beloved companion. For the first time in years, Samuel slept in a real bed. Ranger had his own blanket, a bowl of food, and toys. Yet even with the comfort around him, Samuel often sat quietly at the window at night, watching the city below. When asked by a journalist why he risked his life for a child when he had nothing, Samuel simply said, "Because someone has to care, even when no one cared for you." Their bond became a story that people across the country shared, proof that kindness can come from those who have the least, and that loyalty can survive even after the deepest betrayals. Samuel and Ranger didn't just survive. They showed the world that love, once found, can rebuild lives. If this story touched your heart, please help us keep sharing these powerful messages. Like, share, and leave a comment below for Pawsitive Tales. Tell us, do you believe that one act of kindness can change everything? Special request, please write your thoughts in the comments before leaving. We'd love to hear from you.